So what do I propose to achieve all this? That's the next question. I want all currencies of countries with an economy that is worth more than 2% of the global GDP to have reserve currencies. I want them to float in a bandwidth of maximum 20%, closing to 10% in a 10-year period, based on a moving average of 3 months versus 5 years. I'll explain that later. All other currencies should be put in a basket currency, and I would like the system to start within 2 years from now, so that we can make preparations to work towards it. Now, about the reserve currencies. These are the countries with a GNP larger than 2% of the global GDP. Yeah, the Eurozone is in it, it's a group of countries, but all other countries are individual countries. An extra could be the Gulf states, if they move on with their plans for a currency area and a mutual currency in 2010. An extra addition could be South Africa, so that there is an African country in the list of reserve currencies. And the last would be the basket currency, which I call banker. About the moving average and the bandwidth. The bandwidth will start out at maximum 20%, both up and down. This bandwidth will reduce yearly by 1% till a 10% bandwidth is reached. How is this bandwidth calculated? We take the moving average of the last 3 months divided by the last 5 years, and then see whether this is within the 20% range. If it is above the 20% range, nothing really happens. If it drops below the 20% range, then something very important, I think, should happen, namely that other countries can apply an import tax equal to the result minus the bandwidth at the time, to achieve a better balance between import substitution and export promotion in the country that dropped below the 20%. That country will still have the 20% cost benefit, but other countries will be not disadvantaged because of competitive devaluations of currencies. About the basket currency. All other currencies will be put in a basket currency. I call it banker, and they have an exchange rate with an yearly adjustable peg based on bills of payments account of the countries. The bandwidth of this basket currency will be a bit larger because it will contain both strong and weak currencies. So it starts at a maximum of 30% and goes to a 20% maximum after 10 years. Another option would be to introduce 2 basket currencies. One, a strong banker. All countries with 3 consecutive years of a positive balance of payments would be in the strong banker, and the bandwidth would be the same of the other reserve currencies. It would start at 20 and drop to 10 after 10 years. And then we have a weak banker. This basket currency would contain the other currencies, and the bandwidth of this one is a lot larger. It starts at 40 and drops to 30 after 10 years. I would have a new organization oversee the basket currency or currencies. I name it ICU, just like Keynes did. It works a bit different though. How would it work? First of all, it would be manned and staffed by member countries. Second, there would be an advisory role for IMF and World Bank, because they have the know-how at the moment, and well, the ICU organization doesn't necessarily at the moment. The ICU has minimum 1 seat in the board of directors of IMF and World Bank. The representative of the smaller and weaker countries and economies in the world. At the moment there are 24 seats in this board of directors, so at least one is really a minimum. And furthermore, there would be a debt trap protection mechanism. How would this work? In the past, what have we seen? Whenever there's a financial crisis, we see that foreign capital leaves that country, so we have flight of lots of money to other currencies. This very often causes a collapse of economic activity and leads to a devaluation of the currency. And well, this whole mechanism leads to what is called the debt trap, namely that debts that the country has that are denominated in other currencies suddenly become a lot more than they originally were. What would be the protection mechanism? The debt increase due to devaluation would only be 50%. This gives some protection for smaller economies. Reducing it to 0%, I don't think it would be wise, but because it would create a new moral hazard problem. Here there is still a consequence of over-lending in foreign currencies. It's still very risky, but the debt trap would be diminished. The creditors get only 40% back and lose 10%. This mechanism should make them consider the payability of the debt in the future before they hand out the money. So there is also a consequence for the creditor, so it's a balanced solution, consequences at both sides. How would be paid for this? I would like a small tax on all international financial market transactions. 0.1% should be sufficient to pay for this, and I think it's a small offer to make to protect the weakest countries in the world. All in all, what would be the advantages of what I've just suggested? I think it's a straight flexible mechanism due to the bandwidth, the moving average, etc. It will invite adjustment of national policy. Countries wouldn't like that their competitors can levy the import tax, so they will really work hard to stay within the bandwidth. It will lead to increased international cooperation and interdependency. I want, well, because of the limited amount of international currencies, I'd like also to that all countries should borrow in all currencies to some extent. It would be a simplification of the system. There would be more or less 12 currencies as to the 150 that there are now. It will definitely lead to the responsibilization of important actors within the system, and it will cushion the blows of severe shocks due to the debt protection mechanism, and it will lead to a stabilization of prices, which is not very good for speculators because they will be earning less, but which is basically good for all other actors in the economy. That's my proposal, people. I hope you find it interesting at least, and I hope furthermore that important economists in the world are willing to have a look at it and speak out on its advantages, disadvantages. I don't believe the current G20 summit will be the last one about the financial crisis, but I do hope that some reference will be made in the end conclusions about the currency exchange rate mechanism. I thank you for your attention.